You're listening to the Two Tongues Podcast. And now your hosts, Kyle and Chris.
Yes, they're all back in the house.
Buongiorno.
Sounding like I'm dying.
Yeah, man. Kyle's been sick, so he wasn't on the last couple of podcasts.
Yeah, man, it was a rough one. I had to call off. Not this week. I was at work this week. But last week, I called off the entire week.
How much shit do you get for that?
None, because I have paid time off. So if I'm sick,
Yeah.
I'm entitled to those days. So
Yeah, but it's like
if we were like super busy or something, then maybe it would be a pain in the ass, but I don't know what the fuck you're supposed to do if you're actually sick.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I call off when I'm not sick sometimes because I've got PTO. I might as well fucking use it if I need a day off,
Yeah, I just wonder, like, with a job like yours, broadly manufacturing, let's just say, especially because it seems like a small joint. And, like, I don't know how many people like you they have. So if you're gone, like,
in doing my job, doing what I do, I'm the only person who does it.
See, that's what I mean. So, like, if you're gone, like, as a surprise for a week,
man, I'm far enough ahead that it's not that big of a deal.
Okay, all right.
I can take some time off. So, yeah, not that big of a deal.
I scheduled all the rest of my time off for the rest of the year because I have a type of job where if I don't schedule it as the year gets closer, because I have to have somebody to back me up, and there's not a lot of me's out there. As you start getting closer to the end of the year and everybody's trying to use up their time, because it's like you can only roll over so many days, so it's like use it or lose it. So it gets down to the wire, and then you're trying to get someone to cover you when everybody's gone or covering somebody else. It starts to get really, really sketchy.
Yeah.
So I have all of next week off.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Oh, all of next week.
All of next
That's
week,
pretty sweet.
yeah.
That's always a good feeling. A week off, you
Yep.
know.
I'm gonna paint. I'm gonna do some painting around here.
Nice, man. What was I gonna say? Something about taking time off.
Yep, I think it was.
I don't know. It slipped my mind. Couldn't have been important.
Well, the Cleveland Browns won today.
Oh, did they?
Yes, they did.
Fucking football.
That's not something that happens all the time.
Football. Oh, who'd they play?
Today they played the who the fuck was it? It was Jacksonville.
This regular season?
Yes, it's the
Shit.
second.
It's already regular season.
Yeah, it's the second regular
It just
season.
makes sense. It's September already.
Yep. I haven't watched any college football yet this year.
Yeah.
Because all of the early games are so shitty.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like always one game per week that's worth watching. But
Honestly, I didn't even realize that we were having football games. That's how, like, I don't watch TV.
yeah,
and I'm not much of a sports guy in general, you know?
yeah, I'm with you.
So that's crazy.
Huck it, chuck it,
Football.
football.
I don't hate sports though.
No.
There are the people who love sports, and there are the people who like sports, and there are the people who don't like sports.
Yeah.
Then there are the people who don't like sports and they also like make fun of sports.
Yeah.
Like there are the people like me who I don't really like sports, they don't do much for me. But I'm not like, oh, sports ball, like making fun of people who like football,
People who do that,
It's so annoying.
mostly those people are salty for one reason or another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
the kind of person who thinks that they're superior to the jock, but really you're a fucking nerd.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I see what you're saying.
You're talking shit. You're talking down to the jock, to the guy higher up on the social hierarchy because you're a fucking schmuckle,
Yeah.
a schmuckleberry hound, Kyle.
So I think over the last like decade or so, a little bit, maybe 2 decades, maybe a little bit more, there's been like this kind of idea that, you were just talking about how the jock is higher on the social hierarchy than the nerd.
Yep.
There's been this like effort to like flip that, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I do think that it's worked a little bit.
Yep.
But on another, like a more base level, I don't think it will ever work. It's not possible for it to work.
Yeah. Like,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like what you're saying is the only way it works is if forced and enforced.
Yeah.
If you leave it to nature,
yeah,
it's going to go right back.
It's a trick right now. It's like some kind of like magic trick where they're like nerds are sexy. People who like Spider-Man, people who have Spider-Man sheets, and they're fucking 38.
It reminds me of 21 Jump Street, when they made the film I never watched the original. I think it was a show, right? It was a show before.
I think so yeah, I never.
Yeah, like in the 70s or 80s.
I saw the remake too, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The original, the original remake that they did.
With Jonah Hill and Channing
Tatum, yes. But they picked up on the exact theme. And I also saw this post on social media. It was a picture of.
Oh yeah, they did kind of do that theme in that movie.
They did, remember?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
that was a while ago.
Yeah, like the Channing Tatum tries to like punk people to get status, and like he actually hurts somebody's feelings, and everyone's like, "What are you doing, man?"
Yeah.
I also saw this post on social media was a picture of the brother from Home Alone.
Okay.
What was his name? Do you remember?
Brad?
No, not Brad. Buzz.
Oh, is it Buzz?
I think it was Buzz.
Yeah, it was Buzz.
Yeah.
Why the fuck did I say Brad?
So you remember he's going through his treasure chest, and he's like, Buzz, come down and get me, whatever. Yeah. So anyway, I saw it was a thing of him, and it was like just this little, can't remember what it was, but it was just this little phrase like, can you imagine taking a 90s bully and planting them in today's PC high school?
Yeah.
Like, that would be amazing.
Yeah. I do think that the old school bully still is around, though. Like, I think there are areas where it's kind of like we were talking about with the nerd jock inversion. It's like you're never really going to get rid of those bullies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. One thing you were talking about, that Home Alone scene, when he's in the toy chest, he says, "Hey, Buzz, I'm playing with whatever. You better come down." And he says, "You better come down and pound me."
Yes, he does.
And even as a kid, I was like, that sounds weird.
Yes.
That doesn't sound great.
That's a little bit weird.
Yeah. You better come down and pound me.
What does he say, man? I wish I could remember.
Macaulay Culkin. You got it.
Okay. Michael Jackson.
First of all, Michael Jackson as a musician, incredible.
Incredible, yeah.
I forget sometimes because I don't listen to Michael Jackson very often, but when I do, Michael Jackson is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the more controversial thing, I'm not really sure that Michael Jackson did anything wrong. Having looked into it more, did he do things that were unadvisable and weird, to be sure?
Yeah.
100%. But I'm not sure I believe that he actually did anything.
Yeah, I haven't looked into it all, but maybe you remember, didn't Macaulay Culkin as an adult say that nothing happened sexual?
Yeah.
I mean, as an adult, after Michael Jackson's dead, if he said that, I guess I just kind of believe it. I guess I'll take his word for it. He seems like
and a lot of the other accusers just seem like clout chasers, and a lot of the people, it's like these people who supposedly were, had something done to them by Michael Jackson. These parents are like outraged. It's like, but you let your kids go to fucking Hawaii with a pop star?
Yeah, sleep over. Yeah.
You're insane.
Yeah.
And now you're like up in arms about it. I just, I don't know. I have a hard time.
I'm trying to imagine like a comparable celebrity that we could try to like make an analogy to.
Swift.
Yeah, but she's a broad and a hot one.
What does that have to do with anything?
It's just the idea of a hot older lady having sex with a younger fella. It doesn't seem as bad as a fella.
See, that's where I don't agree with that. I think it's just as bad.
It is just as bad, but you understand the sentiment.
No, not really. Not anymore. I think I did. I agreed with you probably a while ago, but no, I don't. I think it's fucked up.
Listen, I'm not saying that it is better or worse. I'm saying it seems not as bad. Why that's the case, I'll leave it to everybody else who's fucking nodding their head in agreement with me right now. I'll leave it to your imagination. I don't know.
No,
it just
dude.
seems.
No. It doesn't seem better. Like let's take it like.
I think it's more.
Make it as analogous as possible. You've got Taylor Swift. I mean, this is fake. I'm not. I feel like we're going to get in trouble saying Taylor Swift is molesting kids.
Yeah.
But you got Taylor Swift at her age. If she was to be sleeping in bed overnight with like 8-year-olds, that's fucking weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
And if there was a suspicion that she was having sex with that kid, that's fucking weird, man. Now, you move it up to like 15, 16, and I see your point.
Yeah.
I still think I'm with you. I still think it's fucked up, but I do see it as less bad. But the kids that Michael Jackson was supposedly doing things with were very young.
Yeah.
So I do think, no, I think it's this. I think it's pretty much the same.
Yeah, I mean, if you swap the genders of the people in your example, I still think it seems worse. I'm not saying it is worse. I'm just saying it seems worse. But then I was doing this thing in my head where I was trying to imagine why it is that, because you saying like an 8-year-old kid in bed with a 30-year-old pop star is weird. It's very weird. However, there's something that's right on the borderline of motherly in that, like a mother in bed with a child taking a nap. There's nothing weird about that. That's wholesome and precious. And could it be, I don't want to over explain this because I feel like I'm defending it, but that there's a way in which that seems okay. But the point you made about ratcheting up the kid's age to 15, now that there's something sexual, at least in one side of the bed there, then it becomes weird. I think that's a better analogy to the pedo example we're saying, where you have an older fella and man, this conversation is fucking dark and weird all of a sudden.
It's gonna be
why are we doing this, Kyle?
I like it. I think it's fun. Getting to the heart of the issues here.
The heart of the issue is, I agree with you. It is equally bad. Just for some reason, where was I? Where did I begin? Where was I going when we got derailed into this fucking weird?
We're talking about Macaulay Culkin, Home Alone.
Macaulay Culkin, Home Alone.
I think they're just bullshitting. I don't think we're really going anywhere.
There was something I was getting to, but I can't remember now. We got too far.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how about, it's been a little while. It's been like, I think a month since we recorded together.
No,
at least been 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, it's definitely been 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this may be the third week. Okay.
Yeah.
In any case, lots happened since we got together the last time, including the presidential debate between Donald J. Trump and Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
I watched it from beginning to end. Did you watch it?
Yeah. I mean, I was like not paying the closest attention to it, but
were you watching it live, or did you record it?
I watched it live.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know, you probably will agree with this, but maybe not. I'd be happy to hear if you don't. I don't remember a whole lot that was substantial that like I remember specifically, like a line that was good on either side.
I can think of a couple. Maybe on Donald Trump, he said at one point, this was maybe his best, and I think that he should have done a lot more of this kind of stuff, like ask very direct questions and let her, because you can't ask these people direct questions because their beliefs are fucking insane. And I'm not even going to say that I think Kamala really believes that. I don't think Kamala really believes anything. But the things that she is required to say to appease the people who are going to potentially vote for her, it requires her to say crazy things. So one point he was like, would you or would you not allow abortion at the 9th month of pregnancy? And she was like, it's like not, it's, you put her in a really uncomfortable spot.
That's a good point.
So that was a good one. And another one that I just thought was like kind of a typical Trump trolling line was, they had the mics muted like they are doing now, which is strictly a thing that they're doing for Trump because they don't want him to be able to do what he did so well in 2016. So they had the mics muted, so you can't really hear, but he's talking, he's saying something, and she's like over on her other side. You can't really hear her, but he can hear her, and she's like interrupting him, and he's like, excuse me, I'm talking now. Does that sound familiar? Because she said that to Mike Pence during their their debate in 2020, or leading up to that election.
So what were your just kind of high level takeaways? What impression did you have at the end of it?
I thought it was completely pointless. I don't even think that they should have done it, to be honest with you. I don't think that it's going to move the needle in any direction. 100% not. Nobody who was going to vote for Donald Trump and nobody who was going to vote for Kamala Harris watched that debate and was like, I don't know. The other side, they made some good points. That did not happen.
Yep.
I assure you that did not happen. And I honestly really don't think it happened with the people who are more undecided either. I don't think it was a super strong showing for like the normie, like the normal person watching. I don't think it was a super strong showing for either of them. I don't think it's going to move the needle. I thought it was completely pointless. I thought it was boring. I thought it was unfair. I thought the way that they are like tailoring these debates to be unfavorable for Trump is just completely maddening. And I hated pretty much everything about it.
Okay. So I want to ask you about how you think it's tailored to make Trump look bad. But I'm all 100% on board of talking about some of the conspiracy theories that are already trickling in around this, because I think they're interesting.
Like the fucking earring thing.
The earrings is one of them for sure. The other one was that they were specifically manipulating the lights on Trump to make it difficult for him. He was. I don't know if you noticed in the beginning. I thought, man, Trump seems tired, because they had the lights shining in his eyes to where they were almost closed for a while. I thought one of his eyes was swollen shut for a while. They were fucking with him. Yes. So there's some of this stuff. But before we get into it, I'll give you my high level takeaways. I do remember some of those lines you brought up after you repeated them to me, but I would literally have almost nothing to that was memorable about it. But I do think that Kamala, to her credit, sounded very rehearsed. And I thought at the time watching it live that she had been doing a lot of practice. Yeah, she must have been. Then the earrings thing came out, and then I wondered, okay, well, was she just what really was the cause of her preparedness this time? Because this was, I think, uncharacteristically prepared for her. In other places you've heard her talking, she didn't sound like this. So I'm going to give her a point for that, assuming it wasn't cheating, and it could have been. Sure. And I don't put that past them. Donald Trump, I thought, this is what I think happened here. I think that if you remember, they said before the debate that Trump won the coin flip or whatever, and he was able to choose who was going to get the last word, and he wanted to be the one to get the last word. And I understand why you would want to. I also think that the other side would understand that Trump would want to, if given the chance, have the last word. And I think that may have been intentional, because my take, the way it seemed to me, was that Trump got the last word, which means Kamala got to answer the questions first. That was a terrible idea for Donald Trump, because every time the question was delivered, she got to speak, then he had to defend. Every single time it was him defending, and it made him seem like he was on the ropes, like Kamala was rope-a-doping his ass. And that wasn't really the case, but it seemed that way, because every time he opened his mouth, he was defending himself. You know, did you get that impression?
I can see what you're saying.
He never got the opportunity to really say, this is what I stand for, and this is the great America that we have to look forward to if I'm elected. He didn't really get to deliver that message, because he was always countering something. Yeah. You're lying, and it doesn't make him look good when that happens.
Yeah. It'd be easier for me to say if it was more fresh in my mind. I didn't necessarily think that while I was watching it. That's not really a thought that I've had about it. But I don't know. I didn't think that his performance was particularly bad.
No, it wasn't. No.
But I don't think that it was particularly good either. And I feel the exact same way about her performance. Yeah. I do think that compared to how she is when she's just off the top of her head, where she sounds completely fucking retarded, I do think it was a good showing for her, but it wasn't impressive,
This is what I remember from her. The phrase opportunity economy, which
she said that 3 or 4 times.
Right. That must have focus grouped very well, because an opportunity economy, that's her little catchphrase that she's using. Although it's not clear to me at all what the fuck that means. Yeah. And she had an opportunity to tell us, and she didn't. The other thing was that families are going to get a $6,000 tax credit, or whatever it was. That was all she said that was substantial, as far as I'm concerned. And and the first point is not substantial. What does that mean, opportunity economy?
Yeah. I think she said something at one point. Is like, this like my first day in office. This will happen. It's like, why do we need to wait for your first day in office? You're the vice president, and you're like the vice president, some guy who's like an old man who's not doing anything.
Yeah.
Like, why can't you do it now? I just, the whole thing, I don't understand how anybody trusts that she's going to do anything differently, which is one thing I will say that Trump did keep hammering home, that it's just going to be more of the same. And I think that that's a good message.
Yeah. So, do you remember when Obama was president, and especially during those two elections, you heard a lot of people praising Obama for being quote unquote presidential, and you heard this a lot from Joe Rogan, and it drives me fucking nuts.
Rogan's so gay.
When Joe, listen, you tell me if you think this is fair, and listen, I love Joe, I fucking love Joe, and whatever. But let me just say this. If Joe says that Obama was very presidential because he held himself well and spoke well and blah, 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 all those things he says, how far away is that from those like really old-timey racist people that talk about like, trying to describe a black guy that isn't so black, and they use words like
Joe Biden,
Yeah.
They use the first black president to be clean and be able to speak right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I'm serious. Do you think when Joe says, how impressed he was with the way Biden carried himself and spoke, how he wouldn't be emphasizing that if it was Gavin Newsom, right? He was emphasizing that because he was a black guy.
Yeah.
So when he says that, it's like, oh yeah, he spoke really well and he carried himself really well, like even better than white guys. Like that's what it seems like Joe is saying.
Yeah.
Right. And so I don't know why I went off on this tangent. Where the fuck were we going with this?
I don't know. You brought it up now.
I was talking about Obama only just to say people liked him because of the way he presented himself. He seemed like a
white guy,
a noble countenance. He seemed like a good public orator. He whatever. Like he had the right stuff, baby.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring that up is because Kamala is not any of those things.
Yeah.
She doesn't seem regal. She doesn't seem noble.
Yeah.
She's like first the cackle doesn't help her for that, and the fact that she, up until this debate, never seemed prepared, never seemed to know her shit at all. And then her history, as far as like, the stuff I'm hearing now about when she was young and all, her rise, like, that's all. She's not a presidential. I mean, she's not a copy of Obama like they're trying to pretend. She couldn't be more different than Obama in that regard.
Well, Chris, the thing that you're missing in all of this, the really, really important thing, is that she has like slightly more melanin in her skin than you and I do,
Yeah.
So she's copy and paste of Obama, she's like girl Obama.
And she's married to a white dude.
Is she?
She is.
Yeah, I think I knew that.
And I wonder how that makes black people feel. She's like, I wonder. I'm here representing you. I want your vote. And I'm married
really
to
fucking black.
That's the thing. She's half black and half Indian, right?
Is she half black?
I don't know. I think so.
She doesn't look half black and half Indian. You would think that the shades of melanin would be a few more shades dark if she was half black and half Indian.
Yeah, don't fact check me. I don't know her genealogy.
I know that there's some tie to Jamaica, but I think that she's mostly Indian. I think that she's Kamala sounds. I don't know where.
I have no idea.
It's like a lot of, we're gonna get ourselves in trouble here.
Oh boy. Listen, I wanted to ask you something. We don't have to get off the track here if you don't want to. We can keep right on talking about the debate. But I wanted to ask you, are you reading anything? Or are there any, like, maybe there's a podcast you're listening to? Are there any ideas at this point in your life that are fascinating you, that you're like excited about?
No, not really.
When was the last time?
Not that long ago, but I like I was telling you before, I don't know, like sometimes I get in moods where keeping up with like current events and politics is just like depressing. And I also get in moods where I just want to like read fiction and things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of in that kind of a mood at the moment.
Are you reading right now?
Yeah, I've been reading the Game of Thrones series again. Yeah.
You said that. I thought you meant you were.
No,
watching.
I did. I watched while I was off that last week. I watched the entire series again.
So I brought that up because we just finished a show. I told you at night when we start winding down, we watch one show with Aunt Linda before she goes to bed.
Yeah,
and we just finished a show, and I was like, what can we watch with her? And that was one of the suggestions. Like, how do you think she would like Game of Thrones? Do you think we could get her into Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
She's like a 76-year-old lady.
Yeah, it's not, you guys aren't watching it?
We haven't started it, but we need a new show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I started watching a show called Old Man with Jeff Bridges. It's fucking badass.
Old Man.
Yeah.
I think I've heard of that.
I probably wouldn't have watched it. My wife put it on, and after the first episode, it's like this old man, Jeff Bridges, and he's a former like CIA, badass, real secret, whatever he was doing, it was real secret and badass, that kind of guy.
Yeah.
And he's living kind of off the grid in the middle of nowhere, keeping a super low profile, but you don't really know why. So you just have these little tantalizing clues of this guy's like fucking off the grid for a reason and what's going on. He's an old man and he's a badass.
Yeah.
So anyway, he has like a daughter and he's trying to protect her. And then John Lithgow shows up and you're like, fucking John Lithgow's in this shit.
The Trinity Killer.
And he's like in the FBI still. He's like a high up, but he and Jeff Bridges knew each other way back in the shit when they were like in the military together. And so he's trying to protect him because they're coming after him. And he's like, they're coming after me. It's been 30 years. I've been off the grid for 30 years. They're coming after me now. What the fuck? And so that's how the story's unfolding. And there was a scene where the FBI or CIA or whoever these guys are, they send like a couple of guys after Jeff Bridges when they figure out where he is, and he ends up escaping them because Lithgow gave him the tips. But then he talks to his daughter, and his daughter's like, why do you have to disappear? You're you. Just do what you do. And he turns around and goes back and kills those motherfuckers that came after him to send a message. And one of them he kills pretty easily. And the other one he has like this long drawn out fight with. And it's like this old man with like old man military muscles for that's, what I'm talking about. Old man strength, using it against this young guy. And it's like brutal and he gets beat up real bad. But this 30-year-old jacked special forces guy is no match for old Jeff Bridges. It's fucking awesome, dude. Yeah. So I'm only like 2 episodes in, but it's fucking so far so good.
All right, what's it on?
It's either Netflix or Hulu. I can't remember which one.
Probably Hulu.
Yeah, the one you don't have is
the one I don't have.
Damn.
I mean, I don't know. That doesn't sound bad, but I probably wouldn't start watching that right now, anyways. But. I don't know. Maybe I would. I do like Jeff Bridges. Jeff Bridges is the man.
I didn't intend on talking about this, but I love revenge movies.
Yeah.
And my favorite ones are The Count of Monte Cristo.
Yeah.
The one that they did when we were kids with Passion of the Christ guy.
Jim Caviezel.
And
yeah, I know that movie.
You know the one.
Yeah.
And then do you remember A Man Apart?
Yeah. That's a good one.
Vin Diesel. It's just a straight up,
just like kind of a corny action revenge movie.
Strictly revenge. Yeah. And I like my brother talks about John Wick that way, and he's like, "You would love it. You should watch it."
You've never seen John Wick?
My wife says we watched it. I don't remember watching it, and
John Wick's pretty good.
I have every reason to like it. I fucking love Keanu.
Yeah,
love Keanu.
Yeah, he's the man. You should watch it. Oh, I mean, yeah, John Wick's pretty sweet. I don't even love those kind of movies.
But it's worth watching, huh?
But it is pretty good.
All right, listen. If there's anybody listening to this podcast and you're like under the age of like 35, if you're under the age of 30, you probably haven't seen A Man Apart. You have no idea what I'm talking about. You might not even know who Vin Diesel is. Do yourself a favor. Go to Blockbuster, rent that movie. Go to Hollywood Video, save a couple of bucks.
That's the best idea.
Rent that on VHS.
Have Netflix mail it to your house.
Yeah, have Netflix mail it to your house. But watch that. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah, that was a pretty good revenge movie. I'm trying to think. What are there any? There's got to be other revenge movies. I can't think of any though.
Yeah, there's got to be. It's like one of the number one plot lines, right?
Vengeance.
Oh, that V for Vendetta.
Is that a revenge movie?
I mean, vendetta means revenge, doesn't it?
I don't know.
That was a movie.
I'm not a scholar.
That was a movie my wife had
scholar.
not seen when we got together, and I forced her. I was like, we're gonna watch this movie.
Chelsea watch that one too. It was a good one.
What'd she say?
I mean, this was years ago.
Oh, you don't remember? Yeah.
No. She liked it. Yeah, she liked it. How can you not like it?
I specifically remember making my wife watch
wife
a handful of movies that she hadn't seen when we got together. V for Vendetta was one of them. That movie with Will Ferrell, Stranger Than Fiction.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Stranger Than Fiction. What else? Well, she had never seen The Notebook. I made her watch The Notebook, and she refused to watch it for years and years. And it's like, you got to put me in a position where I'm like getting angry about, why are we not watching The Notebook? You know, you're putting me in this position, and I don't like it. But she hadn't seen it. I was like, you got to fucking
Did she
see
like
movie.
it?
I think she did, but she still pretends she's like, you know. And then also, do you remember that movie with Ewan McGregor and Scarlett Johansson?
Yeah, I do.
We probably talked about this.
Island.
So that's about The Island.
Yeah.
Those were all movies I made her watch that she hadn't seen.
All right.
Listen, kids, if you haven't seen any of those movies, check them out.
Yeah, I don't know, man. But so last week I watched all 8 seasons of Game of Thrones. I mean,
hold on, let me just repeat that. Last week, Kyle watched all 8 seasons.
But I watched the bulk of the series last week.
Yeah.
Because I was just sitting there, just coughing my face off.
So that's interesting because you didn't have any of that lag when you're watching it live, where you're waiting
all the way through,
and then so you have more continuity as you're watching episode after episode.
Yeah,
and you also have already seen it probably at least.
I've seen it 3 times total at this point.
Okay, so a lot then. So now you're picking up on everything, basically. Yeah, I would imagine.
And I mean, I was a pretty big Game of Thrones dork when the series was actually going, and so like just to get into it, like I said, I loved Game of Thrones. I started watching the shows well after they started. Like when it first came out, I just didn't have HBO or whatever. Yep. So finally I got it and I watched it and I got current, and I really loved the show. I ended up reading the books, and I was very into all of the lore, which, I mean, I've suggested you like really get into Tolkien before because you would love it, but you would love George R.R. Martin's world too. It's awesome, man.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen. We saw how the TV show ended, but we don't know how the books are going to end. And the books are obviously so much more detailed, and there's tons of stuff that they didn't even touch. And like, it's basically a completely different story. A lot of the characters are totally different. But the cool thing is that George has created this like thousands of years history, and it's like a mystery. Like there's so many theories about what's going to happen, and it's just tons of fun. So I really love the story. And when I was watching it while it was happening, so like I said, I was able to binge the first 4 seasons, I think. The first one that I watched live was 5.
Yeah.
And that's exactly when it starts going downhill.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really noticeable until 6, 7, and 8. And even when I was watching it live, I was like, I hated the 2 dudes who were in that show. They completely fucking ruined it. But watching it through again, even more, like, really? Holy shit, dude. Seasons 6, 7, and 8 are so bad, and one is worse than the other. So bad, man.
So refresh my memory. What's going on in 6, 7, and 8? So I know, obviously I know the end because I remember that, but what's going on?
It's hard for me to break down like what's going on in which season. But the things that I have the biggest problems with is that, okay, so like Jaime Lannister, okay? So the first thing that you really notice that guy does in the show is he pushes Bran out of the window, right? So he's a monster. He pushes a kid out of a window.
And fucks his sister.
And he's fucking his sister.
You got it, yep.
And by the end of the show, and like it's not the end of the books, but where we're at in the books, Jaime is this like complex character, and he's like, oh no, he's a good guy kind of, you know? Like I know he pushed a kid out of a window, and that's fucking terrible, but he seems like a good guy, you know?
Yeah.
And in the show, he goes back, he fucks Brienne of Tarth and leaves and then bails on her and then goes back to Cersei and dies with her. They just, I guarantee you that's not what's going to happen in the books. With Jon Snow, the entire series, Jon Snow is, his main antagonist is the Night King, who is not even really a character in the books, by the way. And then when it comes to the battle between those two, Jon is yelling at a dragon and Arya kills him, who had nothing to do with him. There's like no crossover in their stories at all.
Yeah, sloppy.
It's fucking stupid, man. It's like they were just being lazy and they wanted the show to be over, I feel like.
Yeah.
It's just garbage.
Yeah.
Complete fucking garbage. I hope the books come out.
Is there concern with J.R. Martin's age and health?
So the first book I think came out in like 93 or 96 or something like that.
Really that far ago?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
And, you know, like every book has been like, you know, like I think the first one there's like 3, and then there's like in between the books, and then it's like 5, and then it's like 7, then 8.
Oh, wow.
It's been like 13 years, 14 years.
Wow.
And a lot of people are worried that he's not actually going to get them written. He's like old. He's old as fuck, and he's fat.
Yeah.
Unhealthy. Hopefully he does, man, because he's a great writer. Tells good stories.
Now, one question I wanted to ask you when you were describing the world that he created, and this is a question I have about Tolkien as well. Do you think that they sat down and thought out and planned that structure, or do you think they pieced it together afterwards? Like, do you think that they just sort of let the story flow, and then they let whatever introduce whatever this, whatever that, and then it became significant later because they wanted to tie it together? I mean, how much of that do you think is ad hoc, and how much of that do you think is pre-planned? Because it seems to me like it would be very, very difficult to sit there and draw the map of your world and write out the lineage of all the dynasties and the histories and all that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that it has to be planned to some extent. Otherwise, there are going to be inconsistencies, you know?
Yeah.
You're going to like contradict yourself. You're going to do things that like aren't, you know, I just think if you're not being semi-organized about it, at least at some point, there's going to be problems. But I think that between the two of them, because, you know, I'm a big fan of both of them. And I've like looked into the writing of the books, you know, I've like listened to, well, not Tolkien, but I listened to George, and I've read stuff about Tolkien. You know, Tolkien wrote tons of letters. So a big thing that gets said about George R. R. Martin is that there are 2 different kinds of writers. There are architects and there are gardeners. And the architects are very planned, you know, and then they build it up like that, you know, and the gardeners, it's like they let things grow and they like prune it where they need to and like direct it.
Yeah.
And George is more of a gardener, supposedly.
Okay.
I don't think that being a gardener is a good idea, honestly, to some extent. You know, I think that like you can write these characters, and after you've developed them, like if you've written like pages and pages of like character development and dialogue for this character, they almost do become real. Like they have like a personality and like the ways that they behave, you know, and if they do something completely out of character, it's not going to make any sense. And that's why the TV shows suck.
Yeah.
So I think that like you can be a gardener to some extent, but I think if you are just being very unorganized about it, I don't think it's going to work. And that's why I think that George probably started writing the story and then found a need for there to be like backstory, and he just like has developed it all. So yeah, I don't know, man. But Tolkien is very much more of an art. I mean, Tolkien he's a linguist, and he started developing these languages, and the stories were just like stories about how the language is developed that he was, you know, so just like different approaches. But
that's fascinating, man. Can you imagine being a linguist and studying, you know, undeciphered scripts and studying how languages change and writing systems change, and imagining like how did it get from this state to this state here later? Like you're trying to fill in, like you're an academic, but you're trying to fill in the gaps with your imagination. And those kind of exercises, lend themselves directly to the story, right? The creation of a fictitious one, and it contributes to its authenticity because all of the patterns that he's using in his fiction are real. They're real,
Yeah.
It's just amazing. And another interesting thing is kind of what you were saying earlier about developing these characters and then writing about them for a long time, many books, whatever. Even those guys like the Vince Flynn novels, like those like airport novels that people read, where it's like the same characters, like a spy, and he's like in every single book over and over and over, right? That kind of thing. You spend as an author so much time with that character. I guess what I'm saying is, imagine if you were like using your imagination, like you went to Vegas and you were pretending to be somebody else because nobody knows you in Vegas, and you can, you know what I mean? That's the thing that people say they do. I don't know if they actually do, but they say they do. Can you imagine being so practiced at that, like the way you would if you were writing Vince Flynn novels? You could go and be somebody else because you're so practiced at being that other person that is like a real person, and how different that must be. I just think being an author is a strange thing, man.
Yeah, a lot of crazy people are authors. So
it reminds me of that Wedding Crashers scene where they're trying to make their stories. You remember they're trying to set up their story before they go
maple syrup and water.
What do you think holds it up, Slick?
That's fucking funny. But yeah, like with George R.R. Martin, in the story, there's the White Walkers, and like that should have been in the show. So thousands of years ago, there was this thing called the Long Night, and it's like even in the show, the lady who is the caretaker for the Starks, old Nan, she like tells the story. She's like, snows fell 100 feet deep, and babes froze to death on the breasts of their mother, and the mothers cried, and the tears froze on their cheeks. And kings froze to death in their thrones, the same as like common people. It's like terrifying, and it lasted for generations. A winter and a night that lasts for generations. And so that's what they're fighting. And these White Walkers come down, they break the wall down, and they come down, and the battle is one night long. And it's fucking retarded, man. And that should have been like the main battle. But that's like episode 4 of the last season. And then the main battle is between Daenerys and Cersei. Like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. They just completely ruined it. But in the book, which is good, and which is like you should get into the lore, man, because it's like a fictionalized version of a lot of the real life stuff that you're into.
Oh, really?
It's like all of this, like the creation myths, the legends, the myths that we tell ourselves as cultures. It's like you sat down and you got to write your own version of that, and you're like, the way that people are what's the word I'm looking for? People who are like anthropologists and people who study and try to figure out where these myths come from and stuff like that.
Yep.
I mean, there are people like that they're like fans of Game of Thrones who are like trying to figure out, and it's like there's so much there to work with that it's actually a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's fun, man. It's good stuff. But the show sucked.
Yeah. So the whole Cersei and Daenerys thing that you brought up earlier, being the main battle and all this. So I didn't read the books, so maybe you fill me in here. It's definitely seemed like in the show the power was like the Cersei represented sort of the old seat of power, and Daenerys was constantly picking up new armies and more strength as she's headed back to whatever the place is called. What's the land called?
King's Landing, Westeros.
Westeros, yeah. And so it seemed to me like, at least in the show, it was leading up to that conflict. Is that not the case in the books? Is it not like?
Well, the main threat of the entire novel is the White Walkers.
I see.
And that the point of the whole thing is your Game of Thrones is pointless. Like the real, we're dealing with something real here, and you guys are arguing about who's going to sit on this fucking chair made out of swords,
Yeah.
and then the show just like completely, no, the real thing, the important thing is this. So
yeah. Well, the way you put that, the fact that the main battle happened early and it happened in one day. You're right. It's like all of the dead, whatever they call them,
the White Walkers.
Yeah, but what do they call like the other ones? The ones that were like, is there a
like the zombie kind of thing?
Yeah,
They're just called whites.
Whites, okay. It's like all the dead is resurrected, and they got all huge armies and a fucking zombie dragon, and this whole battle just lasts one evening.
Yeah,
That's a little.
It's
when you put
stupid,
it when you put it that way, it's like
there should have been like I wanted to see 100-foot snowfalls. I wanted to see like hardship and like some like tactical stuff, not just one crazy bend. Like, oh, it's just fucking stupid, man. The whole thing is retarded.
They could have squeezed a lot of good drama out of that they wasted.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what's so typical, and I'm getting up on a soapbox for no reason, but it's typical of like what I see is what's happened to film. It's like everything is the Avengers 7. Yeah. Everything is Mission Impossible 27. They're always one-upping. They have to keep one-upping, and there's so much dynamite and there's so much CGI. And that's what that battle was. It was just like a feast for the eyes. But
that's funny because you couldn't fucking see it because it was so dark.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I honestly, I fucking hate that show. I cannot stand that they ruined it so badly.
Oh, it sucks.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's all I have to say about that.
And that's all I have to say about that.
I have been listening to for this one. George R.R. Martin, he's got his main series, which the whole series is called A Song of Ice and Fire, and then the individual books have their own names, one of which is Game of Thrones. And he's got another series that's called A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and takes place like 100 years before. Oh. And again, it's just like all of the stuff that's happening in this, like all of this stuff is based on like a prophecy. And, like the Targaryens knew, okay, so, they came from the place Valyria. They had a dream. There was like a prophecy that place was going to get destroyed. So they moved over to Westeros, and then they got another dream that foretold like the White Walker thing. And the whole story is like this hundreds of years prophecy of like that being fulfilled,
Yeah.
So all of the stuff in this book is like relevant to get, the Game of Thrones stuff. So it's just cool, man.
Yeah.
I love fantasy. I love fantasy novels and movies and fucking sorcerers and swords. And I love that stuff.
Me too.
I like fantasy a lot more than I like science fiction even.
Yeah, me too. It's funny because I don't know that I really knew that about you.
Yeah.
And you're my best bud, and I've known you your whole life.
I've been ranting about Tolkien for as long as we've been doing this podcast, I think.
Do you have an appetite for like, so I mean, when we were growing up, there was all kinds of fantasy themed things.
Yeah, I wasn't as into it back then.
Okay.
Like I grew into it maybe like late teens, early 20s is when I started appreciating it more.
Yeah.
Like even like Lord of the Rings, that came out. It was probably the Lord of the Rings movies.
Okay.
Yeah, that really got the hooks into me.
Okay, and that makes sense. Yeah. And that's big and epic, like you would. I mean, comparable to the Game of Thrones, especially in its day when those movies came out. But what about things like the Golden Compass and
I saw that,
Stardust?
I don't really remember it that much. Stardust, I don't even. Maybe I'm mixing those two up. One of them has Daniel Craig in it, and the other one has like Robert De Niro
and
Michelle
Pfeiffer.
That's
Stardust.
Okay, I've seen Stardust. I haven't seen
the Golden Compass.
Yeah.
Okay, Golden Compass was supposed to be an epic fantasy trilogy.
Yeah.
And they spent a bunch of money on the first one.
It
bombed, and they never made the others. But they did turn it into a show on HBO called His Dark Materials.
Oh.
Same story. So
that's on HBO?
It's on HBO.
Oh, I'm fucking watching
His Dark Materials.
Nice.
Okay, yeah. I just wondered, if there's other things like that you
Yeah, a lot of I love fantasy, but I don't really know like new fantasy, like I don't
yeah.
So yeah, I'll definitely watch that.
Yeah.
Is that a book series? Did they adapt it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know if it was called The Golden Compass or His Dark Materials.
Well, I
or
can
what
figure
was.
it
Yeah,
out.
yeah. Look it up. Look it up. All right. So let's see what else I want to talk to you about today. So go ahead. What?
Well, I just before we get too, I mean, we've talked about a bunch of stuff in
Yeah.
between, but the debate, you said like conspiracy theory stuff.
Yeah, I did want to circle back to that.
Yeah. So first of all, let's talk about the earring thing.
Let's talk about the earring thing. Back to the debate.
I don't believe that it was. I think it was just an earring. And like her being prepared, like I know that when she's speaking off the cuff, she seems like a stupid person, but she doesn't strike me as so stupid that she couldn't prepare if she didn't want to.
Yeah.
And it just makes more sense to me that, yeah, they probably drilled the hell out of all that stuff, you know? And on top of just drilling it, like a stupid person can do rote memorization, first of all, you know? And second of all, I have no reason to believe that she didn't have all of the questions beforehand.
Yep.
The moderators were clearly on her side.
Yep.
So it just doesn't, her looking like she had a good performance. I mean, to me, if she had all the questions beforehand and the way the moderators were treating Trump and her, that's cheating.
It is.
So I don't think that the earring thing is necessary. Like, I just don't really, I don't really buy into it that hard.
Yeah.
The lighting thing is interesting though. Yeah. Like I said, I wasn't paying that close attention. I was like more listening than I was watching. So like noticing him squinting and stuff, I don't think I would have done it.
If you watch the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes at the most, they fix the lights at some point. When the debate starts, if you pay attention, Trump looks weird. Yeah. He looks like he is tired. That's what it looked like to me, like he was tired. And then, which is unusual, you know?
Yeah, he's pretty spry.
And then after a while, his eyes just kept getting smaller. And I swear, you know, he's got those old man bags under his eyes. And I thought one eye was like swollen shut for a minute. And then, you know, after a little while, it goes away. His eyes are wide open. He's just talking just like normal. Yeah. So they were, and then there was some article about it where somebody was saying they were fucking with the lights. So yeah, that is the type of cheating that I think I don't put past the left and the media that are in their pockets at all. It's juvenile and fucking stupid, but I don't put it past them at all.
Not at all.
Now, when the critique that the moderators are getting is, in my opinion, completely justified, because on 2 occasions that I remember, the fella said something immediately after Donald Trump was finished talking to tell everyone who was listening that thing he just said isn't true, which a moderator is not supposed to do.
Yeah.
And it interrupts not only the flow of Donald Trump's answer, it interrupts the impact that it is meant to have on the audience, and it plants doubt in the minds of the people that you know are susceptible to that, and that to me is unfair.
Yeah.
You know, I could call it interference. It definitely seems unfair. And they didn't do it with Kamala, and they both moderators did it with Trump.
Yeah.
That's cheating. Just like the lights were cheating, just like the earrings, if it were true, is cheating. And I don't know about the earrings. I have no fucking idea.
Yeah.
But I don't put it past them.
No.
I don't think
I'm
that
with you
it
on
is
that. I don't put it, the earrings, I don't put it past them. I don't see it as necessary to believe that she was wearing a Bluetooth earring for her to have the performance that she did. Mm-hmm. I think that she could have that performance without the earring.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I wouldn't put it past him either.
Now, I did also see a montage that they put together of a bunch of different videos of her speaking. Even Kamala has a montage. And anyway, the montage, she had those same earrings in while she was giving speeches over and over and over and over, interviews and speeches. And that, if they are Bluetooth or whatever, that would make a lot of sense.
Why doesn't she, if she's always wearing those earrings, why isn't she more impressive? Why can't she?
That's the thing.
Yeah.
That is the thing right there, is if she always had these things in, why does she perform so poorly in interviews? You know, why is no one telling her, stop cackling? Why is nobody helping her?
Yeah, dude.
So that's a really good argument. The other thing that I noticed is that Kamala seems to have 2 earrings pierced in both ears, and then those clip-ons. And that's weird.
Oh, those are clip-ons?
They're clip-ons. She had earrings in her pierced ears and clip-ons. And that just seems weird to me. It just seems weird to me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm with you. I wouldn't put anything past these fuckers. I wouldn't put anything past Trump either, but he just can't get away with anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like I have, I don't know. I shouldn't say that. I do have way more respect for Donald Trump than I have for the other side. You know, like I think that Donald Trump is a politician and he'll say whatever he needs to.
Yep.
You know, but I still trust him more than I trust, you know, all the other ones.
Absolutely.
With the exception of maybe like 2 or 3.
This whole thing, I know this, I don't think you have support for this idea, but I just think it's interesting, and speak up if I'm labeling you incorrectly here. This unity government thing that Brett Weinstein is talking about. Weinstein, sorry.
I haven't heard anything about it.
Well, this is the idea that Tulsi and RFK Jr. And then a bunch of alternative commentators like Tucker and Russell Brand and Brett Weinstein and these people are all coming together in a coalition with Trump. That's why Tulsi's been named to his transition team, whatever the fuck that means. And RFK Jr. has a spot in his cabinet. So this is the idea of a unity government. And Brett Weinstein laid this out on a podcast where he's like, what we're doing is recognizing we have disagreements, but joining together conservatives, libertarians with liberals and leftists that aren't radical. Anybody who will come on board so we can defeat the threats that are really, critical. And those threats are the totalitarianism that's and dilution of our rights. That's part and parcel to Kamala Harris's regime.
What rights are those? What rights is Brett Weinstein worried that they're going to take?
Freedom of speech, the right to bear arms. Those would be the 2 primary ones. Yeah. But even the right to assembly. He's worried about forcing vaccinations in the future. He's worried about all kinds of things related to science, which is his, wheelhouse. But he has a platform and he supports common sense, and he's a liberal and a Democrat his whole life.
Yeah. But
he wants to support Trump because the threat posed by like another 4 years of this Obama, Biden, Kamala regime, this fucking radical, transformation of our culture and country and government, that includes lawfare. It includes a very strange abandonment of checks and balances and balances of power, and an inflation of executive authority to the point where the president cannot. This whole thing about executive orders, this whole thing about ramping up what can be done by executive orders, and this happened, of course, with Obama, and it was big news when it happened at the time. And everyone's like, well, lots of presidents do this, is no big deal. But then you have Biden trying to forgive student loans with executive orders and things like that. And you start to see that the Supreme Court, right, we're going to manipulate that and change that to do what we want it to do. And meanwhile, the president's getting more and more powerful to the point where the president's making laws now, just going to take that power from the Congress. And guess what the Congress does? Fucking nothing, so anyway, this type of a change that Brett Weinstein sees as terrible for the country and for the culture, and he sees it as part and parcel to a degradation of our civil rights, and foremost among them is our freedom of speech and right to bear arms. So a unity government is the idea of getting everybody on board possible, even if we wouldn't ordinarily get along, to defeat a common enemy. And that common enemy is socialism, communism, lefty totalitarianism, and this PC, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, no, I think that sounds like a terrible idea. I don't want to do any of that.
Yeah.
To me, that sounds a whole lot like you're going into battle and you bring these people in to be your allies in battle, and those people are going to stab you in the back as soon as the battle's over.
Yeah.
As soon as the common enemy's done, they're going to stab you in the back.
Yep.
And they're a lot better at stabbing people in the back than you are.
Yes, but do you think that the people who would be on board with a unity government are those people, those devious, conniving lefties?
Yep.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because it just seems like it seems to me like Tulsi and RFK aren't those kind of lefties. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, maybe you are wrong, Chris.
No, I mean, maybe you're right, but I don't trust them enough
Yeah.
to give them the benefit of the doubt. If I was Trump, what I would do is take power and then shore up any possibility of ever losing power again. Maybe not myself, like I'm not saying Trump gets in and he says, I'm dictator for the rest of my life, but lock it down, fix the voting mechanisms, do everything you can, put all of these people, these deep state, these bureaucrats who have these career positions, fire all of them, get rid of the ones that you can get rid of, and the ones that you don't, put people who are loyal to you in those positions who now have career positions. Like switch the game up on these people that have been doing it to you the entire time. And the reason none of the Republicans who have been in office have done that is because they're all on the same fucking team as Joe Biden and Barack Obama and Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton. They're all on the same teat. So that's why that hasn't happened. That's what I would do if I was Donald Trump. I would lock it down. And I would probably do a lot of things that
it seems to me
would
like
make you uncomfortable, but
but everything you said, even the specifics up to this point, I agree with. If Donald Trump is elected, not only do I agree with you that he should, but I think it is of absolute paramount importance that he does make it his fucking only objective to remedy the lack of faith in the vote, get rid of all that fuckery permanently, so that we can fucking trust it, because that's playing with absolute fire. That's playing with civil war, and I am not kidding. The left is perfectly fine with it, and I do not understand. They do not know what they're fucking with when they're fucking with people's trust in the elections. I mean, that is revolutionary. It's dangerous, is my point. All right, so he should do that. He should fix this lawfare that's happening permanently. I don't have any idea who's involved, how high it goes, what it means, what it would mean to fix. I don't know, but that needs to be fucking priority number one. And the checks and balances need to be restored. And I'm
not as concerned about the checks and balances.
Golly.
Somewhat.
Yeah.
But if the checks and balances allow your enemies to prevent you from doing what needs to be done, fuck the checks and balances. It's like, I can't remember what the issue was. Honestly, I can't even remember who said it. I think it was Andrew Jackson, but I can't remember what the issue was. But they passed, something went up to the Supreme Court and they made a ruling, and Andrew Jackson didn't agree with it. And he was like, I'm the president. I'm the commander in chief of the military. I'm going to do what the fuck I want to do. And if the Supreme Court's made the decision, let them enforce it, was what he said. That is exactly what I want. Fuck you. I don't care. Good. Shove your checks and balances up your ass. If it comes down to, the guy that is running with Kamala, Tim Walz, he's the governor of Minnesota. And because he was governor in Minnesota, now, if you lived in Minnesota and your daughter came to you and she said, I'm a boy, I feel like I'm a boy now. And you said, you're not a boy. Let's just, let's talk about it. Let's work through this. Maybe you're whatever. And she goes to school and she says, my daddy won't, I feel like I'm a boy and my daddy won't let me be a boy. Then the government steps in and takes custody away from you and uses tax money to provide your daughter uses tax money to provide the assistance, to provide the services of hormone blockers, top surgeries, bottom surgeries. If checks and balances gets in the way of me stopping that, the checks and balances can go fuck themselves. I'm going to violate those checks and balances. I tweeted out today, if you're afraid of 4 more years of Donald Trump, you better be thanking God every day that I will never get near the levers of power.
Yeah, I did see that.
Because it would be a nightmare for these people.
Well, listen, there's a sense in which I agree with you. I think that if somebody passes a law that is what's the word, unconstitutional, there should be layers of government that's able to not enforce that law. And there should be civil disobedience allowed to not, you know what I mean? Like I agree with that. What I disagree with as far as poo-pooing checks and balances is that if they work like they're intended to work, it's checks and balances that keeps a president from becoming a dictator. Hold on. It also keeps the Supreme Court from doing whatever they want. It also keeps the lawmakers from being able to do what they want, right? So getting rid of checks and balances doesn't seem like a good idea. It seems like a very risky idea. But I understand the heart of what you're saying. Also, that you should have the ability to disobey an unjust law.
We have these checks and balances written into our system, our Constitution, and here we are. So I just don't think that they work. I think that they're not.
They don't. Yeah, you're right about that.
What works is power. What works is getting shit done. And I don't have any time for checks and balances. I think it's fucking stupid.
I think what the founding fathers never anticipated is that the branches of government would collude together, because the idea is human beings have a certain nature. And one of those things is power seeking in one form or another. We just carry that with us. So if you have a Congress who wants to be top dog, and the president that wants to be top dog, and the Supreme Court that wants to be top dog, or the judiciary in general, they're all vying for power, keeping each other in check because of it. But the moment two of those or three of those people get together and say, why are we doing this? Why don't we just fucking collude?
Yeah.
How about you write your executive order, and I want to make sure Congress keeps their fucking mouth shut. Nobody objects. That is what the founding fathers didn't anticipate. And boy, I'm sure that's a solvable problem. But
I don't know. I think that the founding fathers were really smart, and they understood power dynamics and stuff like that. To say that they didn't expect that, I don't know if I believe that.
There aren't any protections against it. Like there's no, if they would have anticipated, you'd think they would.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know that you can protect against it. If you're going to do the type of government that they set up, I don't know that you can protect against it. I think that when you have that many players and they're making moves, I just don't think. I think eventually it's going to become corrupted. And I mean, this is you might think I'm crazy. A lot of people might think I'm crazy. Honestly, I think that the best form of government is a just king. I make the decisions. Fuck you guys.
I don't think you're crazy. In fact, Plato said that very thing. He said that the philosopher king is the ideal form of government. He has an excellent argument for that. But the philosopher king doesn't exist, as far as I know.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, Marcus Aurelius was a philosopher king.
That's true.
So I know that if you have a monarchy, you're not always going to have good monarchs. But honestly, I think that even with that situation, having bad monarchs from time to time, I think it's a better system. I think it lends for more continuity. I think it lends for more stability. And I think that when you have a system like ours, when there's a bunch of individuals, which is big in American, the American culture, individuality,
Yes.
You got all of these individuals vying for power and being Machiavellian and making moves behind the scenes and doing things like that. I don't think it's possible for that not to become corrupt. And that's exactly why when I was talking about the founding fathers being smart and knowing what they were doing, I think that, the idea that they could never have seen that coming, I just don't buy it. I think that maybe they set it up for that reason. I don't know.
They're definitely smart, and you would think they wouldn't leave such a big gap in the system, as it were. But
you don't think that, when they brought George Washington the opportunity to be king and he said no.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, maybe George Washington is like one, out of those type of people is like 1 in a million who really doesn't want it. But all of these people, especially today, like imagine a lot of these people, these like Washington swamp creatures, a fly buzzing around in here.
Yep.
Who, if you ask them, they say democracy is paramount. It's the most important thing.
Yep.
But if we offered Nancy Pelosi the chance to be queen, what you think she would say? No.
Oh, she wouldn't say no.
No, she would
yes. She would go get her best gown.
Yep. She would have a crown forged immediately.
Yes.
And I think, honestly, I think that the founding fathers were probably like that too. I think that it's like, we need to make a show to say that, it's the people, blah, 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 blah. But they were the elites and they knew they were the elites and they set things up to where, the milkman can run and become a Congress member, but we know where the power really resides, and it still resides there. It always has, it always will. It's like the jock and the nerd. It can't reside anywhere else. It's not possible for it to reside anywhere else. It resides with the elites. It always will.
I just had a flash of something you said when we were still talking about the debate, and I wanted to ask you about it. Oh shit. If it pops in my head again, I'll let you know.
All right.
Sorry. We got off into this balance of power discussion, and we got away from the debate. Did we cover?
I think there was much more.
Did we cover everything about the conspiracy stuff surrounding the debate? I think that's pretty much it, right?
Enough for me.
Okay. So I guess the only other thing I would say about that is I think that if Trump hadn't decided that he wanted to have the last word, if he would have instead got the questions first, it would have been an entirely different situation.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
I would like to say, though, I don't think Trump did a bad job.
No.
A lot of something that's been very annoying to me, and it makes me like, I mean, not that I trust any of these fucking people anyways, but like right-wing commentators who are coming out and like panning Trump for his performance, shut the fuck up. Keep your mouth shut. Even if you do think that he had a bad performance, don't come out and say that publicly.
Right, of course.
Say he did a great job.
Right. That's what the left does.
We need to be controlling the narrative.
Yeah.
And I think we are doing a much better job of that than we ever have in the past before. Yeah. It's like, one more thing with the debate that we can cover that has to do with the narrative is this Springfield, Ohio thing.
Oh, yeah.
Right here in our home state of
Ohio.
OHIO.
Yep.
There's a little city between Columbus and Dayton. It's called Springfield, Ohio. Mm-hmm. And in the debate, Trump made mention of the fact that these immigrants, which people are saying they're not immigrants, they're asylees or whatever, they're here legally, blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. He says they're killing the pets, they're eating the cats and dogs. And as far as the narrative aspect of that goes, the Democrats are trying to say that's not happening.
Yep.
But we are just continuing to run with it is happening. We're pounding it into the ground. It's happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's the thing. I don't care if it's happening or not. I'm going to say it's happening because I think that spiritually it's happening. Yeah. First of all, I do really think it's happening. Like I've heard enough like real people say that, that this is happening. And then the people who are not saying it's not happening, it's fucking Kamala Harris. It's, Pete Buttigieg. Nothing you say means anything to me.
Do you remember when they brought that up on the debate and the moderator, he said, what was this? He was like, no, we got that information from the city manager.
Oh, wonderful.
The city manager said that they're unsubstantiated claims. Do you know what a city manager is?
I have no idea. Not the mayor.
A city manager is not boots on the ground. A city manager is not pet control or what do they call those people that go and catch animal control? He's not animal control. He's not police. He would have to go and talk to the sheriff. He would have to go and talk to the animal control people. He has absolutely no reason to know that and wouldn't have any fucking care in the world. It's not his jurisdiction, right? The city manager has no fucking. There's no reason in the world for him to know that about this issue. There's no reason for him to know. So the fact that they brought up this public office, this high public office in the city, to try to pretend, like, appeal to authority, to let everyone know that the city manager said no one's eating pets. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. It's like if you would have said that the sheriff investigated calls and said it's unsubstantiated, that's different. But to say the city manager said is the most ridiculous thing, man. I don't know if anybody's seen Parks and Rec. I'm sure you probably have. It's a popular show, but you may remember what's his face was the city manager, the handsome dude.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Rob Lowe.
Rob Lowe, that's it.
Guys, Rob Lowe, his character in that show, that was the city manager.
Okay.
That's all you should fucking need to hear. What a dumb thing to say. What a dumb appeal to authority. All right, sorry.
But
eating dogs and cats. Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, so the people that the immigrants that are doing this supposedly are Haitian immigrants,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and just I don't know. I just don't have much of a hard time imagining that that's actually happening.
Well, me either. The messaging is fucking so weird. It's so partisan and weird. So I heard people claiming to be interviews, people claiming to be locals, and they said that many people said that they've not seen any evidence that anybody's eating people's pets. Many people said that. Other people said that it's absolutely the case that they're stealing ducks and geese from the local ponds, that they're gutting them and leaving their bones, and it remains just right there in the public parks, places. They are doing that. So if that is substantiated, and anybody's pet went missing, even one, this story has legs. It has enough legs to be concerned. And what makes this, to me, extra special is the fact that Springfield apparently is a city of 60,000 people. Mm-hmm. It's a small city.
Did you hear how many Haitian immigrants? That's where you're going.
They brought in 20,000 Haitian
1/3 of your fucking population.
1/3 of your population now doesn't speak your language, doesn't have a house to live in, is eligible for all of your public benefits, and is going to swamp your social services, your daycares, your hospitals. And what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do. And that's fucked up. And if they're eating all the geese out of your public park, and if anybody's cat went missing, there's all sorts of legitimate reasons to be upset about this. And if it can happen in Springfield, Ohio, it can happen in any town, anywhere in this country. Do you want that? Nobody fucking wants that. I don't care how liberal you are. I don't care how much blood is coming out of your heart, right? You aren't going to voluntarily have a third of your total population dumped on you with foreigners who don't share your culture and be happy about it, and that are going to be a drain on public resources and parking spots and everything.
So
that's another book in the library your kid can't check out because some Haitian immigrants kids checked it out. It's just one silly example of 1,000 that illustrate how much this is clearly going to make it more difficult for the people living there. And when I say the messaging is weird, I can say all that, and I would think any reasonable person would understand that there's truth there. And yet, I saw an interview of some politician or businessman or somebody in Springfield talking about how the economy has flourished with the immigrants that come in, and we've got all these workers now, and it's like that's the messaging. It's like they're trying to convince us so bad that this is good for you.
Yeah, it's terrifying. What is the solution to that? Like, let's say Donald Trump wins in November. What do you do? What do you do with that?
Well, here's the thing that boggles my mind is I don't know what to do with that. I don't know where to begin.
I have some ideas.
Because whatever that is that we're talking about has allowed and greenlit the transportation of 20,000 immigrants to a city of 60,000 and thinking that that's going to be no problem at all. Who decided that was going to be a good idea? Like, there's any number of things you could have chosen to do with 20,000 Haitian migrants. You could have said they can't come here. You could have spread them out all over the country so you only have 6 or 7 people here and there, and it's not a burden on anybody. But that's not what you did. You stuck 20,000 of them in a tiny town where they're going to now be a substantial part of the population. Like, why? You did that on purpose. So I need to know all about that before I can ever diagnose how to fix it. How did that ever happen in the first place? How was that ever okayed? Who was involved? Did the city government of Springfield have to say okay? Did the state have to say it was okay? I have no idea, but there's no reasonable person in the world that would think that is the solution.
Reasonable, I guess, yes. But I do think there are a lot of people who are not reasonable, who are, they're bleeding heart liberals. They think that we need to be taking care of everyone, and it's our job.
What's the point of doing it like that rather than sending, rather than spreading them out to 100 cities? Why send them to one city of 60,000?
Keep them together? I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to, what you're going to do if you do that? You're going to immediately create a subculture like Chinatown, like you were talking about that the other day. You're going to immediately create because they have enough in terms of numbers that they don't have to assimilate, because there's 20,000 of them that they can have their own businesses. They can only deal with each other. They don't have any trouble speaking to each other. They have the same culture, whatever. They can now not be a part of your community because they have their own already. Mm-hmm. And they have enough as a percentage of population to now start getting city council seats and school board seats and Senate seats. You know what I mean? That is a real possibility when you put 20,000 in one city. That wouldn't be the case if you spread them all around. So that's my question. What the fuck, man?
I mean, that makes me think of you talking about them being able to get city council seats and stuff like that. I don't know that they're able to vote, but give it a year.
Give it a year. That's it.
Yeah. It makes me think of like all the Mexicans and people's coming up from the southern border, the illegals that they want to give the right to vote.
Right.
If that happens, we're in bad shape.
Just listen to what that says. If you break the law to come here, we're going to give you the most valuable gift, but that in the political realm imaginable, mm-hmm. a vote in the greatest country in the world, mm-hmm. with the greatest military and the most influence. We're going to give you a vote, and that's our gift for you breaking the law to come here. What kind of message is that? Even if we don't look at any of the details, if we don't talk about population decline, if we don't talk about, cultural enrichment, if we don't talk about any of the other, related items, what the fuck, man?
I don't know, man, but it's scary. What the future will look like if that happens is very scary.
Yeah.
I could foresee very bad, very dark things happening if that happens. That
makes me think of that video I say, there's that fly on my microphone.
I was thinking of that too.
Sorry, I just blew into the microphone with everyone listening. Trying to blow a fly off. That reminds me of when I went to Canada when I was a kid. I was married, but I was like 20 years old, and my ex-wife, my wife at the time, was standing next to me taking a picture or something. And a black fly in Canada, they got these big old black flies, and they bite and they hurt. Yeah. And I had been bitten by a bunch of them while I was up there. And it's not like if they land on you, like here in Ohio, if a fly lands on you, you go, and it's gone. Or you just twitch, it's gone. Black flies, they're there to eat, and you aren't going to blow them off. They're not going to. If you flick them, they'll be like, dude, knock it off. Yeah. They still keep biting you. So this fly lands on her head. I just whacked her. I use
that as an excuse to get some aggression out.
Dude, I just instinctively squashed the fly and I smacked her on the back of the head.
Like a reason to slap this bitch.
That I had to apologize, but that's what I just did, blowing into the mic here. So,
man.
Sorry, man. I derailed again. What were we talking about? We were angry about something.
Yeah, you said that reminded you of that video that you sent me on
Oh,
Twitter.
that video.
And I feel like it ties into the Asha logo stuff that you were talking about earlier too.
It does. Well, so I guess first I'll talk about that video I sent you. So I don't even remember. Yeah. So it was just to set the stage. The video was a British lady confronting what seemed to be some kind of a public display of religious unity. So there was like a Church of England or a Catholic priest. I can't tell because they all
some kind of imam.
Yeah, sitting next to some kind of standing outside publicly, and they were talking to people. I don't know what was going on, but she comes up and she starts talking to them, and I don't know. Do you want to?
I don't remember the points that well, but basically,
do you remember when I said what part of this hit the hardest? Did you what phrase that came out of her lips would you bet I was referring to? Because when she said it, I was just like, oh my God.
I don't remember.
Okay. So this lady is talking.
I do remember thinking, I think it's probably that part, but I can't remember which part that is.
All right, I'll tell you. So this lady's talking to the imam, and she's saying that she doesn't accept the control that the Muslim population in the UK are assuming as they're coming in large numbers to the UK and have been for some time, especially the Pakistani population. Apparently it's been the case for a long time. And there's all these rapes. I don't know over what period of time she was referring to.
I think it's like a decade or more, but it's even for a decade, it's a lot.
She said it was 1 million. Mm-hmm. And these are rapes of children, minors, where the perpetrator is a Pakistani or otherwise an Islamic migrant to England.
Yeah. And
she basically made the point, like, you don't respect our laws. You do things like this. We're not safe here. You won't assimilate. This is our culture. This is our country. We have every right to demand that our culture be preserved and that our land continues to belong to us. You have no claim here. You have no authority here. And the fact that you can't play nice, the fact that we let you come with open arms and you're raping our daughters, and it's done with a justification that's both political and religious. So for that reason, our goodwill can only last so long. And she's basically warning him, but she's doing it very politely, like British people will do. And then she says, this is the line that I fucking was like, oh my God. She was like, our goodwill will only last so long. And then we're not going to be committing terrorist acts, blowing up things. We're white people.
Yeah.
We destroy civilizations.
Yeah.
And I was just like, we do destroy civilizations. I was like, oh man, fuck, dude. I mean, and I was just, my eyes were as big as saucers. So anyway, that was the line, because listen, it's provocative and people will say that's super racist, but here's the thing. Historically accurate, and that's the scary thing. That should make it scary to you listening to it. It should make it scary for the Muslim fella listening to it coming out of her mouth. She's standing in a country full of people with the blood of conquerors.
Yeah.
And as liberal as they are, and they're fucking pretty liberal over there, their lineage is Saxons and Vikings and fucking Celts,
which is ours too.
Exactly. So anyway,
maybe we're further removed from it, but go ahead.
Yeah. No, I just think that there's some truth in that, and it should be scary.
Yeah, it should be.
It's scary to me.
Yeah, it's because you have a higher IQ. You have a high enough IQ to be able to look into the future and see trends and patterns and things. A lot of these people don't, and I don't.
There's a lot of bears being poked. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean that is. I've seen some videos, not for any reason or anything, just because, I peruse the internet, but I've seen some videos made by people who are, if you called them a racist, they would say, yes, that's right.
Yeah,
that's correct. I am a racist. And that's like a common talking point that you push us far enough and, it's like, we'll show you some footage of what we've done in the past. It's not going to work out well for you. The problem is that white people are so cucked that white people are the word racism, the mind virus of racism has like ruined white people so much that here's the thing is I do think that it's possible for them to push us too far to where that breaks.
It
but
is.
I don't think they think it is. I think that they think they've got us collared.
They'll be surprised. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, at the risk of saying something that's going to get us kicked off of YouTube, man, I'm ready to surprise them, dude. Like I fucking hate these people. And that's a rough thing for me to say. But yeah, I mean, I have to keep telling myself that a lot of this is just being ramped up because it's an election year and that things are not as bad as they're being made to seem. But the problem is that things are as bad as they're being made to seem. Like the mask is getting taken off and we're seeing how bad things really are. I think in the past, people have said that about election years. It's like, oh, they ramp everything up and it's, they make everything seem worse than it is. But I don't think, I think that things are really bad right now,
They are.
And I think that it could very well turn into something really bad. I mean, I was alluding to that earlier. I could see some really nasty shit happening.
Yeah, I hope that's not the case. I want that to be very clear. But yeah, so I have this thing pops in my head, and it's I don't know how good of an analogy this is. I'll just tell you, I'm a sweet man, Kyle.
Sweet man.
And by that I mean, I don't seek violence.
You're a nice guy.
I'm a nice guy.
Yeah.
I'm a peacemaker, and I'm also kind of a hippie. I'm all about love.
We're
and
all one, man.
Yeah, we're all one. Like I'm very much into this idea that the soul, the spirit that animates human beings is the same soul, and the reason that I have to love you is because you and I are one. And I truly believe that. And I try to. It's easier for me to feel that way about you because I love you and I've known you my whole life. But I try to feel that way about everyone. And one of the things that's happened to me since I've become more and more this way is that I feel very, very guilty if I kill anything. And I'm a hunter, so I'm not really talking about killing to eat. That's a whole different conversation. I'm talking about killing pests, things that are unnecessary to end life. A spider walks by and I smash it. That's the kind of thing that I would never have given a second thought to. And now I feel guilt about. It's like substantial guilt, but I haven't stopped entirely killing bugs. So what I'm telling you here is I have a great deal of compassion and respect for life. I think life is sacred and holy. When I see a bug, even a spider, even if I'm scared, I think about the fact that it's got all these eyes. And it's looking out at the world. And the thing in it that is seeing and experiencing is the same spirit that's in me. And if I'm just going to end that life, it's something very like disrespectful and also almost like, what word am I thinking of? Like a bad religious thing, like a sacrilegious, right? But I still kill spiders from time to time. I still kill mosquitoes from time to time.
You still got, the rodent poison outside.
I still have the rodent poison. Yes. And how I justify this to myself, especially when it's a situation where like there's a spider in the corner right here in the office.
It's dead here in a minute.
No, I saw it there a few days ago. I didn't touch it. It's fine. It's in the corner. It's not fucking with me. If one of my kids were down here, I would kill it. If I saw it crawling near one of my kids, I would kill it. If I saw it in a place where my kids are or a place where I'm sleeping, the moment that the thing is dangerous to me and my family, I kill it. So this analogy, I want to link to the patience that white people are in the West are having with the cultural changes and social changes.
There.
That's what I'm saying. The moment we think this is now a danger to us, the spiders are getting squashed, man. So I know that wasn't the most elegant analogy, a way of getting there, but that's what popped in my head is that I know in my heart of hearts that I justify killing God every time I feel, and I put it that way too. It's like a sacred thing. I'm going to squash God under my foot because it's a threat and a danger. The moment it becomes a threat and a danger, I feel like I have that justification. Even me, even this hippie, this guy that's describing himself as a hippie and all this. I just think that there's an analogy here to a larger, much more dangerous situation.
So you're comparing immigrants to bugs. to insects.
No, of course
It's
not.
very Hitlerian of you.
Oh boy.
Yeah, no, man. I agree with you, but I think that the time for us to realize that the spider is threatening us was like 10 years ago. You know, like I think the fact that we're not doing it yet makes me concerned that maybe we are too cucked to do what needs to be done. And I mean, to interpret that as you will. I don't want any violence, you know, like I don't, that's not, I'm hippie enough to feel that way. Like I don't want there ever to be any violence, but I'm also realistic enough to know that sometimes violence is necessary in life. And if people are going to be committing violence against you, I don't have a problem with committing violence back.
Yeah.
And that's, I've been feeling that kind of stuff a lot lately, like an urge. You know, Jason from 2-Bit has the vengeful son thing, and I've been feeling very vengeful.
Yeah.
I've been wanting it. And like the idea that it's going to feel good and you have to like control that. We've talked about this before. I do agree with that. Like, you know, there are certain roads, certain avenues you don't want to take, but you can't block off every avenue because you're afraid of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, it's like you're too cucked. You know, you're not going to do anything. You're a pussy. You're in handcuffs. You're never going to do anything.
Boy,
and
that's
not good.
Repeating that, you're a cuck. You're not going to do anything. Repeating that is enough to make a man blow up, and that's the cultural equivalent of that is happening all over the West.
Yeah. You say
you're
repeating
a cuck.
That is enough to make them blow up and like do something.
Yeah, of course. Imagine someone in your face saying, "You're a cuck. You won't do anything. You're a cuck.
Depends on
you
if
won't
you're
do
actually
anything."
a cuck or not.
Right, yeah, well, true.
Some people won't do anything.
Even a borderline cuck, after a while, their ego is going to cause a volcano to erupt in that situation.
Hopefully. I mean, honestly, I don't see any other way out. I don't think it needs to be like a war, you know, like round them all up and exterminate them kind of thing. But we need to be forceful. You know, we need to be, what's the word I'm looking for? We need to like have a plan of action, and we need to be willing to execute that plan of action, regardless of whether it hurts anybody's feelings or puts other people in a bad situation. I don't fucking care if all 20,000 of those Haitians who are in a good situation right now because we're, you know, cucks, if we round all of them up and drop them back off in Haiti, that doesn't bother me at all. I don't fucking care about those people.
It doesn't bother me either.
In the sense that I don't want them to die. I don't want to kill them. Yes, I care about them. They're human beings. Yep. I don't want them to die, but I don't want them here. I don't want them hurting people who are like me. I want them gone. And if that hurts your feelings, if that hurts the Haitian people's feelings, I don't fucking care. I will round you up and ship you out myself, given the opportunity. Yeah. I would be happy to.
Yeah.
And I wish that I got the vibe from more people that they felt like I do.
Well, I've been seeing more and more people. I don't surf these corners of the internet, but every now and then I'll encounter like in a debate scenario or something, somebody who's defending being racist, publicly defending. So they're making an argument for it. And I think it might have been somebody being interviewed over in Ireland or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that.
But it's interesting because there is a. I'm hesitant to say it. That's the power of the culture. There is a legitimate defense of it. Mm-hmm. And you hear some of these people that are intelligently defending it. And that is the type of stuff, going back to the Ashalogos conversation, that I feel more and more strongly about. The idea of why should it not be okay to be proud of your heritage? Mm-hmm. Why should it be permitted to be robbed of it, to allow yourself to be robbed of it? So I don't know. I could go on and on and on, but what do you got?
No, I'm with you. I think why do we, as the people who are opening up our nations to these people, why do we have to be the ones who say our culture's bad, and if it gets watered down and eventually completely eradicated, that's probably a good thing, really. You know,
We've made that in the United States and maybe in the West, but in the United States in particular, we've made that a virtue, right? We were told when we were kids, this is a melting pot. This is why we're so great. This is why we invented jazz, right? Because we allowed our cultures to blend together. And I guess there's truth in that, but it's not like that now. And so what has changed? What has changed? It seems to me that this idea, this inability or having no desire to assimilate, right? It's like we could flavor your culture with our spices, right? That's what seemingly how it used to be. But instead they're like, no, we're just going to keep ourselves isolated, separate, and live among you. And it's almost like, boy, man, this is going to make me sound more Hitlerian than I want to, but it's like the model of a parasite, or the model of a symbiote or something. Like those little lampreys that stick a hold of a shark and just eat all their scraps. It's like you're a parasite. That's you're not there to be a part of it. You're there to benefit.
You're speaking my language right now, man.
I'm saying that, and I kind of hear echoes of some of the conversations we've had about the Huden.
Huden?
The Jews. The Jews.
Gotcha.
Boy, it just makes me uncomfortable. It's like, even now I'm like, how do I get out of this? How do I get out of this?
It doesn't make me uncomfortable at all, man. That's like my wheelhouse. That's like all I want to talk about.
That is the subverted history stuff that we've hinted at a time or two when we've talked about, like, why is it that you can't hear Hitler speeches? Why is it that you're not allowed to study that stuff? Because you may find out that there's more substance to that than we were told, because everything has got to be so black and white, especially for kids. It's like if you're teaching someone history in K through 12, you got to be pretty black and white. There's good guys and bad guys. It's you know what I mean.
The bad guy.
There's no nuance.
Winston Churchill's the good guy.
Right. Yes.
Enter Daryl Cooper. Did you catch any of that this week?
Oh.
Daryl Cooper was on Tucker Carlson's podcast, and he said that in his mind, and this kind of lines up with when we did the series, or the episode on Daryl Cooper on his series Fear and Loathing in the New Jerusalem. Your take was that you felt like England was like the main bad guy.
Yeah.
And he said that his, the primary bad guy in all of World War II was Winston Churchill. Which I'm in that podcast. I agreed. Great Britain sucks. Like they definitely facilitated a lot of that, but I don't think that you can act like the Jewish people weren't like directly involved in manipulating a lot of that.
Oh, absolutely.
So I'm with you and Daryl. I think that Winston Churchill is a bad guy of history. I think that Winston Churchill is as bad a guy in history as Hitler has his reputation. I mean, I might even go so far as to say that, like, I don't think Hitler's, like the best dude in history, but I think that Churchill might be worse, to be honest. If you look at Daryl Cooper's coming out, the whole reason this happened is his next series is going to be about World War II. And I can't wait for that to come out. I hope that tons of people listen to it.
Yeah.
You can already, Pete Quinones did a series with Thomas 77 where they've done multiple wars. I mean, Thomas is a great revisionist historian. And I mean, we're talking maybe over 100 hours, probably over 100 hours of Pete and Thomas talking about various periods of history. And this is what we've been told, but here's all this other stuff that like calls all of that into question.
Boy.
So listen to that stuff, people.
Imagine learning something or some series of things that changes your mind from thinking that Winston Churchill was one of the saviors of civilization to being one of the greatest villains of the 20th century. Imagine thinking that Hitler was obviously a terrible racist, bigot, genocidal, maniac, and then some series of information that you never had access to starts making you think that, well, perhaps some of that's true and perhaps some of that's not. Maybe the picture of history that you were given is not just wrong. It's not just skewed,
maliciously false.
So skewed that you are, it's all topsy-turvy. I mean, that's like one of the things Asha Logo said in the introduction to that first episode. It's like disgusting. It's like there's not even a good enough word for it. It's like I want to use the word rape somehow to describe what false history, like being forced to consume false history is like. It's like Jordan Peterson always talks about how important it is to speak the truth because it's so easy to get lost in lies and to get bent and distorted, and then suddenly you're not lined up with reality anymore and you don't even know, it's like that is the type of sin that we're talking about. Getting people to base their lives and their their conception of themselves and their culture and their society on false history.
I mean, it's like as serious as, I am a religious person. I believe Christianity to be true. So it's like, if you believe that Christianity is true, and let's just, for the sake of the argument, let's say 100% Christianity is true. That's how I feel, but like, that is the fact of reality. Christianity is true. And that, and you like influence your civilization to be like Satanist, it's like, it's like that bad. It's like, you've ruined everything. You've like, I guess with religion, it's like the afterlife as well. So I guess it's worse, but it's like that central to somebody's life. It's like, you're damned.
Yes.
Everything in the future is going to be completely fucked because you were wrong about everything about the past. So
I'm just trying to imagine, because I grew up before this woke thing, and my history was skewed as much as anybody, but not like it is now. And I'm trying to imagine what it must be like to be a little white kid in school. Like I used to be a little white kid in school. To be a little white kid in school today.
I was always a fat white kid.
Yeah, a fat white kid. Yeah, even worse. And to think that there's something inherently wrong with you. Something inherently,
that fly loves your face, dude.
Something inherently wrong with you because of the color of your skin. It's like, that's where we are. That's where we are. We took 180 degrees from the days of Martin Luther King to today, where
the days of Martin Luther King, like that was the glory days.
Well, you know what I mean? Like that was a time when a little black kid was sitting in school thinking to himself and being reinforced subconsciously and culturally that he was less than the white kids. And that's how white kids are today. That's what the little fucking 8-year-old kid in class is absorbing from his goddamn fly, from his purple haired teacher. It's just like it's like, it helps me to understand the sin that was segregation in the United States, because that's what we're.
I don't know, man. I think I'm kind of an advocate of segregation, to be honest with you. I think that segregation's a good thing.
Well, that's very progressive of you, because that's what they want. That's the direction that the lefties are going.
Not really, though. Not really. Like if they wanted segregation, why are they bringing in 20,000 Haitians into Springfield? That's not segregation.
That's true. But they're doing weird shit, man. Like,
Yeah, I know. It's like when they had the Chaz and the Chop, and it's like there was like black only areas and stuff like that.
There's like black only places in college dormitories and black. Yeah. It's fucked up.
I don't think it's fucked up. I think that that's fine, to be honest with you. I think it's fucked up if one side, if you're under the same like rule, if you're under the same government and one side is favored to the other, then there's something messed up about that. Sure. Yeah. But if it's just like go do your thing. And if you want to say this is a white only area or this is a black only area, fine.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's okay, but we're talking about a public school. It seems to me like
I don't have any problem with it. I don't see the problem. If black people, like, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
I don't hear. This is going to be. Let's just make it real controversial. I don't want to be around black people. There are black people who I like.
Yeah.
And if I am in a situation where I am like forced to get to know somebody and I like them, I'm happy to be around them. I don't like hate people based on the color of their skin. But I do have preconceived notions about those people. Those preconceived notions about those people are based on my experience, and I'm not wrong.
Yeah. Well, so the question that comes to me is, should you be, well, I don't know how to put this, like, should you be disallowed to live amongst only white people and interact with only white people if you choose? Should you be, should that be, I don't know what I'm saying. I mean, there's nothing illegal about it, but as a society, is that something that we want to allow?
I think that
should you be free
to segregate?
To segregate, yes.
I think that society would function better if we gave people the opportunity to segregate. I really do.
Yeah. And then the argument against it is the argument the other direction is the cultural enrichment argument, I guess.
Give me a fucking break, dude. Cultural enrichment.
But see,
what cultural enrichment has been brought to the table that has made this country better? Look at the way this country was. You know, like, we'll just go back to the 50s because it's like everybody's golden era. You know what I mean? What has been introduced to this culture that has made it better from the outside? Are we better now than we were in the 1950s? Would you rather live now or in the night? I mean, that's hard. That's a hard, because it's different. Like, technology is different.
Yeah.
But like, as far as the moral compass of the country and the philosophical direction of the country, what has been introduced that has not been subversive and has not broken us down and made us worse? It's all been subversive and made us worse. Jazz. It's like, we really needed jazz. I like jazz, you know, but like, I don't think that it's enriched us. I don't think that it's not so significantly good that it's like, oh man, what would we do without jazz? You know, who gives a fuck?
I think
what?
I think the question,
Mexican food.
I think the question is like jazz, as an example, wouldn't have existed at all if it weren't for the mix of black and white people. If it weren't for black people living in the United States, like jazz wouldn't have. So the idea of it enriching the culture means something exists that we can now benefit from. I'm not saying that it came from black people, although it did in a large way. It came from the unique situation that gave birth to it, which was black and white people, largely in the South, right? I think in this country. If they weren't here, we wouldn't have jazz. That doesn't mean we wouldn't have African music. Of course we would be able to listen to African music, but we wouldn't have jazz, right? So that's the argument of enrichment. It's like, but the question then is, yes, you might have benefits that come from cultural interaction. No one's arguing with that. But does that mean that interaction's different from blending the cultures together permanently, right? Interacting is one thing. It's just like people saying, it's great that Chinese people exist, that Chinese culture exists, that Chinese food exists, and if I want to experience it, I can go to China and be totally engulfed in this other way of being human, and that's an enriching experience. But that's one thing. Bringing it home and trying to fit it in the puzzle with everything else, that's a different thing. Yeah. And I think it's a fair point to raise. I don't know what the answer is, but I think it's a fair point to raise in a conversation, that can be had.
Yeah. Yeah. I think America and the West in general we're in a not great position. We're in a position that the rest of the world is in a not great position for other reasons, mainly because they don't have. It's like Africa. We've talked about this before. Every country that you would want to go to in Africa, they all have one thing in common, and it's the fact that they used to be colonies of white countries with white people. So the rest of the countries, they have that, or the rest of the nations in the world, they have their third world countries. You wouldn't fucking want to go there. You wouldn't want to live there particularly. The disadvantage that we have is that, and the benefit that they have is that we have imported all of them. Like they all have, Korea. It's a Korean fucking country. All the people who live there are Korean. 99% of the people who live in Korea are Korean.
Mm-hmm.
China, if you can move to China from what I understand, but you're not going to affect the trajectory of the nation of China as a white dude.
No.
You're not going to have anything to do with it. And that's good. If I wanted to move to China, which I don't, if I wanted to move to China, I would think that it makes perfect sense for them to say, yeah, you can live here, but you're not ever going to be the mayor. You're never going to do any of those things.
Sure. Yeah.
That's fine.
That's an option too. That's an option for
I think
a
that's
model
what we
for
need
the
to
United
do.
States. Yeah.
I mean, but the problem is, like I said, though, that we already have so many people here. And a lot of them are citizens at this point,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what do you do? What do you do in that situation?
Listen, I think from my perspective, the thing that makes this conversation challenge, the thing that makes this a conversation at all, is the fact that people don't adapt to the American culture anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And why would you? If every person who speaks about it says it's terrible, it's racist and colonialist, and what did America ever do except for rob, pillage, and rape, and kill a bunch of Native Americans?
You're so bad.
Yes, I know. But if that's what you're told, why would you want to be American? You know what I mean? So we're doing this strange thing. And if these people if this was like the 1950s, when the people that were coming here from other countries wanted to be American, wanted their kids to be American, I think that there is a great benefit in adopting the good things from other cultures in a place where everybody is subservient to the same ideal, the American success story, the American dream, whatever it is. If everybody wants to be American, we can benefit from everybody else's shit and still be American. What we've lost is the still wanting to be American. The thing that joins us together, we've lost it.
I'm not sure that it's possible to benefit from everybody's shit and still have people want to be American. You know what I mean? Because I don't think you can open up your country to other nations, to people of other nations without getting people who are going to want to subvert and not do it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's possible.
Well, you don't think this has happened in world history. I know we're coming up on time here, but this has happened in world history. Like the Greeks didn't have the number 0 until they went to India and Arabia, and those people were using 0.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden, our math system, we adopted the Phoenician system, and suddenly we can do all kinds of things with math more quickly than we could before. We took the better thing and we had incorporated it into ourselves.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's what cultural enrichment should be.
I don't think that you need to open your country up to invaders to take the good ideas from them.
Agreed.
And I don't think that they need to be here. I think that America can open itself up to people who will make it better.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say there's some medical genius student in India or something like that. He's like he's going to cure cancer. Given the resources and the time, he's going to cure cancer. I think it's okay to bring that guy to America.
Yeah.
I don't think that he should ever be able to vote. I don't think that he should be able to come here and benefit from living in a first world country, a beautiful, clean country. All of that's great. You're never voting. You'll be taken care of. I don't think that we should make him, feel outside. I don't think anybody should be, like attacking him or anything like that. But I don't think that he should ever have a say in where our country goes. I don't think
this is an important thing you're saying, because I think it's an angle that some people can't see.
Yeah.
Like they can't imagine that it would be possible to have a full member of society that isn't a citizen and yet is still equal, because that's what you're describing.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you have to participate in government? You're coming from somewhere else and you want to participate in government of this country. Why can't you just live here and benefit from the good things that it has to offer and participate and contribute?
Mm-hmm.
And just not be a citizen? Like why does the left want everyone to be a citizen? Why does the left want everyone to have a social security number and to be on the roll?
That's how Rome was back in the day. Like I'm sure you've heard, being a Roman citizen was a huge fucking deal. You know, you could live in the Roman Empire, but you weren't a Roman citizen. And if you were, that was something special.
Right.
You were really onto something. You had a leg up over a ton of people if you were actually a Roman citizen.
Right.
And I think let's be Rome again, man. Let's
well, you see that? I mean, people will say, "Oh, that's exclusionary and that's racist."
Good.
People will say that.
Exactly.
People will say that. But they do that. It's the way it is in Canada. Mm-hmm. It's the way it is in Saudi Arabia. If you're a citizen of Saudi Arabia, I'm pretty sure this is the case in Saudi Arabia, you get a piece of the oil revenue because you're a citizen, and those oil revenues belong to the country. So they're selling all this oil all over the world. You get a check every month for your piece. So Saudis, and there's lots of people who live in Saudi Arabia who aren't citizens, who don't get that benefit. But if you're a citizen, you get that benefit.
That's
Same thing in Canada. Same thing in Alaska, by the way. If you are a citizen, if you were born in Alaska, you get a fucking check every month for the oil that's there. Isn't that crazy?
That's awesome.
But so yeah, I mean, it's not unusual to do this. So I guess the question for people who, for your normal person who thinks that you're being racist right now, why should everybody get citizenship?
They shouldn't. There's no good argument for it.
What's
unless you're of the type, and again, this is like kind of ties into your philosophy. Everyone's one. Why shouldn't they be able to? I just don't. That's not how I see things.
It's they shouldn't be able to because it's unsustainable.
I guess. Yeah, I mean, that's
you can't have Okay. All right, so we're right up on time. I want to tee up this conversation that I want to have just so the listeners know what to expect. And let me bitch while I have everyone's attention. Let me bitch really quickly. I put a bunch of effort into an episode I did called Ex Nihilo not long ago, and it wasn't long. It was like a 30-minute episode. It's easily digestible. Usually I do 2-hour episodes, right? So this was, I thought, this is an easy listen. People are going to listen. Nobody's fucking listening to that episode. It's got like 14 views on YouTube. What the fuck? Guys, go and watch Ex Nihilo. It's short, but it's something that I basically took a couple episodes I did in the past. I did an episode called Nothing Matters with Michio Kaku and Nothing Matters with Alan Watts. I took those episodes, what I learned in them, and I wrapped them together with another theory from physics called the zero energy universe hypothesis by a guy named Lawrence Krauss. Wrapped it up together with a bunch of like religious stuff, just like I do. But anyway, fuck you guys for not watching it. Watch it. So what I've got coming up here is I've been reading. Kyle got me a Bible, an Orthodox study Bible, a while back, and I've been reading it. I've been reading the Gospels because I don't really remember ever reading through the Gospels like in detail. I definitely never studied them, and like shame on me. Like I should study it. And I was curious because I've been listening to a lot of Muslims, listening to that Sam Shamoun guy online and a bunch of Muslims talking. And it seems to me pretty clear that Muslims don't have any idea what Muhammad taught. And what I mean is, if Muhammad is a prophet, that means he has a message that he needs to correct the path that everyone's on. And apart from monotheism, I have no idea what Muhammad taught. And so it seems like ordinary Muslims don't have a great grasp on what he taught. And I thought that was true of Christianity as well. We don't have a great grasp on what it was Jesus taught. In fact, the idea of Jesus being a teacher to a Christian is kind of minor significance. It's not about what Jesus taught. It's about what Jesus was, right? And what he did. That's what we focus on. So I wanted to read the Gospels and try to get an idea of what Jesus taught.
Mm-hmm.
And so we didn't have time to go into it too much today. But what I really want to do is have a conversation with you and me, and I'm going to get Daniel Tordin to come on and then talk through it. And what I find fascinating is that the Gospels were written after the time of Jesus, but they're talking about the time when Jesus was alive. So they're talking about 40 years ago, 60 years ago, 100 years ago, whenever these Gospels were written. And they say that Jesus preached the gospel. And I know gospel means good news. I know that. But when we say gospel, we were referring to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So when Jesus preached the gospel, well, the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John didn't exist. So what was Jesus preaching? What was the good news? I found that answer difficult to find in the Gospel of Mark. There's some talk about the kingdom of God, very interesting stuff, very difficult for me to understand what that means. So that's kind of what I'm hoping we can talk about and try to make some sense of.
Why did you pick Mark?
Because it's the oldest.
Okay.
I started with Mark because it's the oldest, and
it's also the shortest.
It's also the shortest. Almost like 16 chapters. So thank God for that.
Well, that's why the other ones might expound on some of the things that you're wondering about more,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
So,
I think they will. And I'm kind of hoping it builds. So my idea here would be, I'll start with Mark and we'll have a conversation. I expect Daniel, he knows the scripture well. He'll probably give us some other stuff here and there.
mm-hmm.
And then maybe when I read the rest of the Gospels, I'll just kind of do some other solo stuff and we can talk about it on the podcast and just kind of keep it going. But I'm really curious. I'm really curious to dig into what the good news was that Jesus was teaching and what exactly the kingdom of God means. And I think those things are more mysterious than most Christians admit to. I don't think I have ever heard an exposition of what the kingdom of God means that makes sense and also fits with what is said in the Bible. People say the kingdom of God is a state that you can earn while you're living and exist in when you're dead. It's something like heaven, but not heaven. It's also associated with this idea of the New Jerusalem and this after the tribulations of the second coming. It's like very confusing. What is the kingdom of God? Is it that? Is the new kingdom of the New Jerusalem? Is that the kingdom of God? Well, the fucking Mark tells you that the kingdom of God is. What does he say? The kingdom of God is here or within or something like that. And the Gospel of Thomas says the kingdom of God is within and it's spread out upon the earth and no one can see it. Like, what in the fuck is the kingdom of God? So anyway, I'm studying it. I'm actually studying it, trying to make sense of it like I've never done before. I think it's important. And I want to know what Jesus taught, not just what people tell me he was or means.
Yeah. I mean, I think kind of like lining up with the two examples you gave of what the kingdom of God is. The kingdom of God is everything, but it's like, God is the Lord of everything. Everything is the kingdom of God, but just because you exist in it doesn't mean that you're a part of it. You have to choose to be a part of it. You have to act to be a part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can alienate yourself from it, even though you are existing in it. You know what I mean?
It's interesting.
So
yeah, it's interesting. I got this model in my head while you're talking that fits in with that process philosophy of Alfred North Whitehead, where he talked about everything being he described everything. By everything, he means all experience that ever was or is or will be. He describes it like those Russian nesting dolls. Everything is inside of something else. And that's kind of what I was picturing when you were talking about God, God's kingdom being everything, but then you having to choose whether you want to be kind of like a permanent feature of that, or whether you're going to be
or whether you want to
plucked,
rebel against it.
Yeah, whether you're going to be plucked out and discarded, like the what's the biblical thing about the shit wheat in the chaff, something like that. That's interesting.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, man. We could go on this forever, but we're at time. So anyway, we're gonna do Gospel of Mark. What did Jesus teach at some point in the future?
You got any idea when?
I mean, we could make it. I'll talk to Daniel. We could probably make it next week or the week after if you want to.
Week
if
after
you're okay with that.
good,
Okay,
yeah.
I'll ask him about that.
Cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm off all week next week, so maybe we could do something else. But you work, so it's like
What do you mean?
like we might be able to fit in.
Christmas.
Yeah, that flies. Fucking. We might be able to fit in another recording, but
it's like during the week.
Yeah, but you're working, so I don't know.
I could come over one day.
Well, all right,
it'd be fine with me. I don't know what we talk about, but
all right. Anything else?
Nah.
All right, guys, like and subscribe, dingle the things, and dangle the
shit.
dangles, and click the buttons. Go and watch Ex Nihilo. It's only 30 minutes. Let me know what you think.
I'll watch it.
All right, thanks, Kyle.